May God bless your day and the week ahead. Um, Imagine holding the absolute power of life and death over a man you know is entirely innocent,
Right, yeah.
but then deciding that his brutal public execution is, just the necessary cost of doing business. Welcome to this deep dive.
It's a heavy thought to start with, for sure.
Yeah, it really is. Today, our mission is to pull back the curtain on Mark chapter 15. We've got a massive stack of notes here, drawing specifically from the Portuguese editions of the Holman Study Bible and the NAA Study Bible.
And those notes are just incredibly detailed. I mean, the crucifixion of Jesus is a story that is so culturally everywhere that it almost suffers from overfamiliarity.
Oh, absolutely. You might think you know this story, but today we are looking way past the surface. Like, people assume they know it because they've seen the classic paintings or, heard the Sunday school version.
Exactly. But when you dig into the historical footnotes in these study Bibles, you realize Mark 15 is operating on multiple, highly sophisticated levels all at once.
Right. It's not just some clinical recounting of an execution. We're going to uncover the rich political, cultural, and theological layers that a first-century audience would have immediately recognized. It's basically a political thriller.
A thriller and a massive expose on Roman imperial power. So we join the narrative early in the morning. Jesus has been up all night facing this religious trial before the Sanhedrin.
But they hit a huge jurisdictional brick wall, don't they?
They do. Under Roman occupation, the religious leaders had a lot of local authority, but they did not have the legal right to execute someone for a capital crime.
Wow. So they literally couldn't kill him legally.
Right. That power was fiercely guarded by the empire. It was strictly reserved for the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate.
So to get the death penalty, they are forced to hand Jesus over to the Romans. And this means they have to totally pivot their strategy, right?
Oh, completely. Pilate is this pragmatic Roman official. He could not care less about internal Jewish religious disputes.
Yeah, the charge of blasphemy means absolutely nothing in a Roman court.
Exactly. So the second they step into Pilate's headquarters, the accusation suddenly morphs into something purely political.
And you can see that in the very first question Pilate asks Jesus. He says, "Are you the king of the Jews?"
Yeah, he just bypasses all the religious noise.
Right. He zeroes in on the only thing Rome cares about, a direct threat to the empire. Because claiming royal authority in a subjugated province is high treason. It's a direct challenge to Caesar.
But Pilate isn't a fool. The historical context shows he instinctively knows the chief priests aren't actually concerned about Roman national security.
Right, like suddenly they care about Caesar's safety. Give me a break.
Exactly. Pilate sees right through it. He knows they handed Jesus over out of pure envy. Jesus was threatening their societal power, not Rome's.
But then what totally throws Pilate off balance is Jesus's reaction.
Yeah.
Faced with these life-threatening charges of treason, Jesus just remains completely silent.
Which is wild. He refuses to defend himself, refuses to play the political game.
I mean, for a Roman governor who spends his career watching terrified people beg for their lives, that silence must have been unnerving.
Unnerving and just deeply confusing. But Pilate is also dealing with a hyper-volatile situation outside. It's the Passover festival.
Right, the city is packed.
Swelled dramatically with pilgrims. And anti-Roman sentiment is always at a boiling point during this specific holiday. The threat of a riot is very real.
So Pilate tries to use this established custom, right, releasing a political prisoner to the crowd to act as sort of a pressure valve.
Yeah, and this sets up one of the most staggering moments in the entire text. The crowd has to choose between Jesus and Barabbas.
Okay, the Holman notes on this completely blew my mind. The crowd demands the release of Barabbas, who was a literal rebel, an insurrectionist who committed murder during an uprising against Rome.
Right, a real threat.
But his name, Barabbas, in Aramaic, literally translates to son of the father.
It's an incredible detail. The theological irony Mark is capturing there is just inescapable.
They literally ask for the false son of the father to be freed so the true son of God can be killed.
They choose the man who takes life over the man who offers it.
It's crazy. And if you put yourself in Pilate's shoes, it's like a corrupt modern politician dealing with an angry mob outside City Hall.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. He knows the guy in custody is innocent, but the mob is literally about to burn the city down. So the politician calculates the odds, shrugs, and sacrifices the innocent guy.
Just to keep his poll numbers up and maintain order.
Exactly. He releases a known terrorist to avoid a riot that would end his career. And once Pilate legally washes his hands of the situation to satisfy that mob, the tone totally shifts.
It really does. The calculated political maneuvering evaporates, and we descend into brutal, systematic mockery.
Jesus is handed over to a Roman cohort in the Praetorium, and the study Bibles clarify that a cohort could be up to 600 soldiers.
Yeah, up to 600. We are not talking about a couple of board guards in a dungeon here.
Right, this is a massive military presence surrounding one exhausted man.
And what they stage next is this really dark parody of royalty.
Hmm.
They dress him in a purple robe.
Purple being the color of royalty.
Exactly, the exclusive color of imperial authority. Then they weave a crown of thorns and force it on his head.
And they give him a reed as a fake royal scepter.
Yeah, and then the abuse escalates. They kneel in mock homage, hit him on the head with the reed, and shout, "Hail, King of the Jews!"
Which the notes point out is a direct mocking corruption of Ave Caesar.
Yes, it's important to understand why they did this. This wasn't just rogue cruelty. The psychological torture leading up to crucifixion was meticulously designed state-sponsored terrorism.
Like an imperial billboard.
Exactly. It tells all subjugated nations, this is what happens when you rebel against Rome. We don't just kill you, we turn you into a pathetic joke.
But the incredible literary irony here, and this is where the Gospel's theology really hits, is that soldiers think they're staging a fake coronation.
Right.
But they are actually unknowingly crowning the true king. Every piece of their mockery is declaring a truth they are totally blind to.
They're acting out this profound reality while completely ignorant of it. And once that cruel pantomime is over, they put his own clothes back on him and lead him out to Golgotha.
The reality of the cross begins. Jesus is physically devastated from the flogging, so the Romans compel a bystander to carry the cross.
Right, Simon of Cyrene. The Romans had the legal right to force subjects into labor like that.
Okay, but here's where I need to stop and ask you something, because I always get tripped up on this. The text specifically names Simon as the father of Alexander and Rufus.
But it does.
Why? Why bother using valuable parchment to name his kids if they aren't even in the rest of the story?
It's a great question. The study Bibles offer this brilliant piece of historical context. Mark includes their names because this gospel was originally written for the early Roman church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, by the time Mark is circulating this, Alexander and Rufus had likely grown up to be prominent believers in that very community.
That makes so much sense. It's a historical timestamp of eyewitness credibility. Mark is saying, hey, you know Alexander and Rufus at House Church? Go ask their dad what happened.
Exactly. It grounds the theology and verifiable recent history.
So they get to Golgotha, and they offer Jesus wine mixed with myrrh. The NAA notes explain this was a primitive anesthetic to dull the pain, but he refuses it.
He does, and by refusing it, he makes a deliberate choice to face the execution with full, unclouded consciousness.
That's intense, and the timing is specific, too. The notes say crucifixion begins at 9 a.m., the third hour, and the inscription above his head, the King of the Jews. That wasn't a joke, right?
No, not at all. Modern readers often think it's sarcasm from the soldiers, but it was the titulus, the official legal accusation of his crime.
So everyone walking by would know he was condemned as a political insurrectionist.
Right, and the entire scene is deeply tied to Old Testament prophecy. The soldiers casting lots for his clothes echoes Psalm 22.
And he's crucified between two robbers, which the sources describe as a dark parody of royal advisors on his right and left, fulfilling Isaiah 53.
It's a picture of total rejection. But as the clock strikes noon, the deep dive takes us from the physical into something entirely supernatural.
Yeah, from noon to 3 p.m., darkness covers the entire land.
A complete blackout in the middle of the day.
And the study notes connect this back to two massive prophetic anchors. First, the plague of darkness in Exodus, and second, the judgment in Amos chapter 8.
Where it talks about the sun going down at noon and the earth darkening in broad daylight. This isn't just an eclipse.
Right, it's apocalyptic language signaling divine judgment. And then at 3 p.m., coming out of that darkness, Jesus finally breaks his silence.
He shouts in Aramaic, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?
It's so powerful, and the Holman notes spend a lot of time on this. It's a direct quote from Psalm 22, but the theological weight is just staggering.
It really is. The Greek word for forsaken implies being completely abandoned in a hostile environment.
So it's not just the physical pain of the nails, it's the spiritual agony of bearing the weight of humanity's sin and feeling completely separated from God.
Exactly. And the way he dies is fascinating, too.
Yeah.
Usually, crucifixion victims died slowly by asphyxiation. They just fade away.
But Mark notes that Jesus dies with a loud cry.
Showing voluntary strength. He yielded his spirit. The cross didn't just slowly take it from him.
Right. And the very second he dies, two massive things happen. First, in the temple, the veil of the sanctuary is torn in two, from top to bottom.
That veil separated the holy place from the Holy of Holies, where the presence of God dwelled. Only the high priest could go in there.
I like to think of it like a massive VIP access-only velvet rope at a club, right?
Yeah, that works.
But it's permanently slashed in half by the venue owner. It signifies that direct access to God is now open to everyone. The old sacrificial system is totally obsolete.
That's the exact paradigm shift. And the second event proves that the old barriers are gone. Down at the cross, the Roman centurion sees how Jesus dies and says, "Truly, this man was the Son of God."
A Roman executioner.
Yes. The irony is so thick, the religious insiders, the scholars who memorize Scripture, they totally missed it.
They were completely blind.
But this Gentile Roman soldier, an enemy of the Jewish people, becomes the very first human in Mark's Gospel to rightly confess Jesus as the Son of God.
It's such a brilliant reversal. Now, usually victims were left on the cross or thrown in mass graves, right?
Yes, denying a proper burial was part of the punishment.
But we get this surprising twist in the final segment. Joseph of Arimathea steps in.
Right. And the sources point out he was a prominent, wealthy member of the Sanhedrin, the exact same council that condemned Jesus.
The notes say he was secretly a disciple, and because it's the day of preparation, he goes to Pilate to ask for the body.
It's an act of almost incomprehensible boldness.
Okay, but I have to push back on Joseph's logic here, because tactically this makes zero sense to me. Well, wait, Joseph stayed quiet when Jesus was alive and popular, right? He didn't defend him during the trial. But now, when Jesus is executed as a traitor and associating with him is the most dangerous thing you could possibly do, that's when he decides to go public.
It seems totally backwards.
He walks right up to the Roman governor and asks for the corpse of a convicted rebel.
It really highlights his profound courage. Both the Holman and NAA notes contrast his past secret discipleship with this bold act. He is risking his elite status, his wealth, his safety.
And Pilate's reaction is surprising, too. He's shocked Jesus is already dead after only 6 hours.
Yeah, Pilate actually verifies it with the centurion. And crucially, Pilate just gives the body away without demanding a bribe.
Which Romans typically extorted from families, right?
Exactly. They made money off the grieving. But Pilate demands nothing.
So Joseph wraps him in linen, places him in a rock-hewn tomb, and rolls a large stone across the entrance to prevent grave robbery.
And we can't forget who is watching all of this. Women, including Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of Joses. They carefully observe the exact burial location.
Setting up the undesirable eyewitness foundation for Sunday morning.
Exactly.
So synthesizing all these incredible notes from the sources, what is the core takeaway for you?
The whole historical narrative of Mark 15 is entirely built on role reversals. The mocked king is the true king. The religious leaders are blind while the pagan executioner sees the truth. And a secret follower risks everything when hope seems totally lost.
It's a masterclass in subverting expectations. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ponder the profound historical irony here. The Roman cross was invented to be the ultimate instrument of terror, humiliation, and state power.
The worst thing imaginable.
Right, but it was completely subverted in a single Friday afternoon to become the enduring global symbol of divine love and redemption.
It really did rewrite history.
God blesses all the listeners.